Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle is directed by Jake Kasdan, and it is a sequel to a movie that I watched a lot as a kid, Jumanji. This film takes place about 20 years after the original movie, and it follows these four teenagers in detention who really don't get along well together. But after the Jumanji board game adapts itself into the form of a video game, these four kids are sucked into this game and are forced to work together as these avatars in order to get out alive. I know for at least people around my age, they were very hesitant about the idea of a kind of a reboot sequel to a movie that is very special to a lot of us, especially because of Robin Williams. I think it's fair to say that I probably haven't seen the original Jumanji in about 10 years, so it's really difficult to say if that movie holds up. With that being said, I would probably assume that the movie doesn't hold up as a whole, but I'm betting that Robin Williams does. And I'm curious to see what other people who grew up on the original film think of this movie, but for me, I actually did have some fun with this film, which I was surprised by. And I think the main reason that I had fun with this movie is because of the cast. You have some really talented people who are so good at their job, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and Jack Black, and most of them are actually playing against type from what they typically play. For example, like Dwayne Johnson is playing this very nerdy kid who is literally scared of everything in the jungle from pollen to squirrels. And I think at some points this is a detriment to the film, because when you have somebody like The Rock who is the epitome of charisma and charm, it just felt like this film was being held back a bit because he is playing this very nerdy, kind of awkward character. I think this film offers one of the funnier performances that we've seen from Kevin Hart recently. I'm not really someone who thinks he is hysterical like a lot of people do. I think he has some moments in some movies and in some routines, but he surprised me with this movie. He definitely is doing what he typically does, which is kind of yelling and making fun of his stature, but it's toned down a bit in this movie, and it's not nearly as egregious as like the ride-along films. But the standout in this film is without a doubt Jack Black. His character is actually this Valley high school girl, almost to a cartoonish level, but he is just so funny in this movie. He really goes out on a limb in trying to portray this bratty teenage girl, and I really honestly can't see anyone else doing as good of a job as he did. I think Karen Gillan and Joe Jonas are fine in this movie. They're pretty serviceable. Their performances don't really call for much comedic moments, but something that I really did like about this movie though is even though they're not the funniest characters, they do feel like an essential part to this team. Because this being a video game movie, that is kind of a crucial element of team video games, is the team. And even though The Rock's character is this very brave kind of hero, he can't do everything that other people can do in this game. So it forces them to work together and to come together to problem solve to get out of this situation. And this movie also makes an effort to make fun of some of the video game tropes, which is something that I actually enjoyed a lot, and I wish they would have actually done more of it, because every time they did it, I thought it was so funny in the ways that they were able to make these meta jokes that people who enjoy video games would probably get. With that being said though, I do think it is a bit ironic that this movie is supposed to be a revitalization of the Jumanji franchise, I guess now, but this movie feels a little bit dated already. Almost every character in this film feels like it was from 1995 as opposed to being a more modern 2017 interpretation of the story, because you have this very nerdy character who does his homework and I play video games. Like, I was surprised that he didn't have tape around his glasses. That's how cartoony this nerdy kid is. You have this bratty girl who's taking pictures in class and is only worried about how she looks. You see what I'm saying? These characters are just so cartoony, and it just reeks of someone who hasn't been to high school in over 20 years and really has no idea how kids act anymore. And when I was leaving this film, this movie just felt like there was a studio executive who maybe saw Jumanji when he was a bit younger and then saw his nephew playing video games and kind of just connected the dots and tried to make a more modern version of the story. However, with that being said, I do think if you are going to try and make a more modern version of Jumanji, I think this is probably the best that we could hope for. But again, it's because you have these people who are just so good at their job in portraying these characters, it's kind of hard to dislike this movie. This is by no means a perfect film. It's just pretty enjoyable, and you have some people attached to it that are really good at their job and really likable. And again, I do think that if you're going to try to revitalize Jumanji and make it more modern, I think that this is probably the best out outcome that we could hope for. So did you guys see Jumanji? Welcome to the Jungle. What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked today's video. And if you did, click on the link down below. Check out my channel, some more movies, more related things. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.